Hey kiddies, it's Triple Feature Tuesday once again, and this week we're looking at Where There Was Nowhere.
Werewolf bar mitzvah, spooky, scary, punch me coming in.
That's right, we're back doing a month of horror movie triple features because it's time to do a month of horror movie triple features. And this week we're gonna start everything off with teenage werewolf movies, which by and large have the words teen and werewolf in them. Have you ever noticed how unsubtle or unartistic horror movie titles are? Like, they usually just actually say what happens in the movie, like The Texas Chainsaw Massacre, The Fly, Dracula, Frankenstein, The Invisible Man, The Phantom of the Opera. Like, sometimes you get like more artistic ones like The Howling or The Silence of the Lambs, which which has references to other things. But I mean, you have other like normal non-horror movies. You have like The Godfather. You think there's probably going to be a Godfather in it, but you don't necessarily know that it's going to be an epic crime drama stretching over generations of this one family, as opposed to Night of the Living Dead, which takes place in one night and has the living dead. Yeah. Like, unless it's like, well, actually, I guess I should disagree with myself. The slasher movies of the 80s that were all holiday themed, like those, like you knew it was going to be a slasher because it was a holiday name, but then again, they take place on the holiday. You know what? Never mind. I'm right. I'm always right. Anyway, this week our menu is going to include I Was a Teenage Werewolf, Ginger Snaps, and Teen Wolf. Have you ever actually gone back and watched I Was a Teenage Werewolf? Because you should. It's great. It was on Hulu a while ago. I don't know if it's still there, but it was made in the 50s, stars Michael Landon of Little House on the Prairie and Highway to Heaven fame as Tony or Joey. He's got a name like that, but he is a rough and tumble kid. Like, you know how like you watch old movies and that are set in high schools or have kids in them, and kids used to fight a lot more than they do now, but this kid, Michael Landon, fights too much. And like, I mean, you honest to God, there are scenes where people just look at him wrong and he starts beating the shit out of them. He gets recommended to a psychiatrist to deal with his anger issues. And here's where everything starts getting really, really weird and really, really relevant to things that I like today. He goes to a psychiatrist. He sees the opportunity to use this person with mental issues to use as a guinea pig to turn into something with even bigger issues. In I Was a Teenage Werewolf, it is quite literally he uses scopolamine and hypnosis to regress Michael Landon into a more primordial werewolf form that theoretically this is what we evolved from, because 1950s science is the best science. Here's the thing. This is the central plot of the first season of the Hannibal television show. Hannibal Lecter meets Will Graham, who has some weird mental thing going on. They don't like to nail down what it is on the television show because it's very, very made up and only useful and practical in storytelling settings. Hannibal Lecter uses hypnosis and scopolamine to turn Will Graham into a murderous monster. I don't know that Brian Fuller was specifically trying to do the most artistic remake of I Was a Teenage Werewolf with his adaptation of Thomas Harris's The Red Dragon, but it would be really, really funny if it were. Michael Landon, of course, starts turning into a werewolf whenever he hears a bell and causing a muck, and then it basically turns into your standard monster is running around killing people. And actually, like the werewolf actually does kill a few people. I was pleasantly surprised at how enjoyable and well made this movie is, because it has one of the schlockiest titles you'll ever see. I mean, I Was a Teenage Werewolf. This is like, like another generation horror movie version of like a Reefer Madness type of movie where powers that be are trying to teach the children to not be jerks. But because if you do be a jerk, you'll get sent to the psychiatrist who will turn you into a bigger jerk, and then the police will gun you down, which, spoiler alert, for a movie that is probably 70-ish years old, that is what happens. Although I think there's some episode of Highway to Heaven where Michael Landon does like an extended reference and or homage to the movie, so maybe there's some redemption for Tony, Joey, I forget what his name is. It's a Tony or a Joey up in werewolf heaven. So our second movie, Ginger Snaps, immediately contradicts the whole mini rant I went on, where it's a werewolf movie with an artistic title. Catherine Isabelle stars as Ginger Fitzgerald, the titular Ginger who snaps, along with Emily Perkins, who plays Bridget Fitzgerald, the Fitzgerald sisters, up in Canada. They are in high school. They are the gothy, outcast girls, and when they're trying to pull off a prank, they accidentally get attacked by a werewolf, and Ginger becomes infected with werewolfism. Whereas American Werewolf I Was a Teenage Werewolf just has the generalized metaphor of you're a teenager, so you have hormones and you're going through changes and you're a jerk. Ginger Snaps really runs with it. The whole movie has the same sort of plot progression of David Cronenberg's The Fly, in terms of watching Ginger eventually transform into this werewolf. But there's so many puberty and coming of age jokes throughout the whole thing, because Ginger has hair where there used to not be hair, and she's got some weird bleeding happening, and they go to the school nurse, who says, that's all just perfectly natural, you're at that age, and this is what happens. And this is also kind of paralleled by Mimi Rogers playing Pamela, their Bridget and Ginger's mother. And man, Mimi Rogers, she's in the movie for maybe 20 minutes, but steals every scene that she's in because she's hilarious, which was not easy, because, man, Catherine Isabelle and Emily Perkins, I have been fans of them ever since this movie. Like, they are incredible in everything that they do, and they're always a good time. Catherine Isabelle would become kind of a much more prominent scream queen, with appearing in Freddy vs. Jason, American Mary, and also on the Hannibal television show as Margot Verger. Emily Perkins is just, she would co-star in the other two Ginger Snaps sequels, and just be all over Canadian television. Actually, Catherine Isabelle and Emily Perkins are just all over Canadian television. They're both on Supernatural with prominent characters, and every other show. That's what's fun. I love, like, you watch like Law and Orders and like The Wire and Oz and stuff, and you see like the incestual Eastern corridor of working actors. But Canadian television, everybody, I have to believe that they all just know each other. They've all been in the same things together. Like Chris Lemch, who is also in Ginger Snaps, playing Sam, the drug dealer / horticulturalist / Basil Exposition, who is also in like the Final Destination movies and Existence, because Canada. I don't know. This is like kind of like Stealth turning into a Canadian thing. But to get back to it, Ginger Snaps is so very clever, so very well acted. It's very intelligent. I love it. Usually I would go in chronological order for these movies, but because you also sort of don't want to end on a downer, spoiler alert, I would put Ginger Snaps in the middle, because it is a darker, actual, like, legitimate, scary movie. There are moments of great tension in it, as opposed to I Was a Teenage Werewolf, which is kind of, violent, but it's not that scary, and Teen Wolf we'll get to. But also it's nice because this one is, it's nice to make kind of a sandwich, because like we have central male characters in Teenage Werewolf and Teen Wolf versus Ginger Snaps, which focuses on the girl side of horrible transmutations into fanged furry mammals. But yeah, no, Ginger Snaps, it is still one of my absolute favorite things. Love Ginger Snaps 2, which focuses even more. Like, Ginger Snaps, the first one, is about Ginger, but Bridget is the protagonist of the film, and even more so in number 2, Ginger Snaps. I think it's Ginger Snaps Back? No. I think it's just Ginger Snaps 2. And then Ginger Snaps 3, which I love. It's a weird prequel that kind of mixes Ginger Snaps with Ravenous, but it's very well done. A lot more Canadian actors that you'd see in everything, like Brendan Fletcher and J.R. Bourne. And it's also the only movie where the sisters are completely on the same page throughout the entire movie. And it was just really nice to see Catherine Isabelle and Emily Perkins get to be on the same team instead of being kind of antagonistic to each other, which they are in the first 2 films. Also, fun fact, Catherine Isabelle is 1 year younger than Emily Perkins, even though they're their ages are supposed to be reversed in the film, with Bridget as the younger sister to Ginger being older. And also another fun, like, kind of blink and you'll miss it moment. Christopher Nolan, in the Christopher Nolan version of Insomnia, Catherine Isabelle plays the best friend of the murdered girl. But at the funeral, Emily Perkins is performing some sort of reading or some sort of remembrance for the murdered girl. So it's like they're back in the same scene together for like a minute because, again, Canada, it's just one big casting pool and they all have to know each other, and I bet they've all been each other's secret Santas at some point. And finally, we have Teen Wolf, one of the best teenager movies of the 80s, if often one of the most overlooked ones, and part of the triumvirate of great Michael J. Fox films of the 80s. You got your Teen Wolf, Back to the Future, and The Secret of My Success. See, I always thought, like, in that Not Another Teen movie, the one thing it was missing was some sort of time-traveling werewolf that was scamming his way into a big position in a yuppie corporation. But Scott Howard, played by Michael J. Fox, is just a normal teenager who's not terribly good at basketball, but it's fine because their basketball team is not terribly good. And then all of a sudden it turns out he's a werewolf. He comes by it naturally. He comes from a family of werewolves, and as a result, it's not the worst thing ever. They are, as opposed to I Was a Teenage Werewolf and Ginger Snaps, Scott is completely cognizant when he wolfs out and uses this to become a basketball hero, because this is something you would make a movie out of. This brings it back into a much more psychological metaphor for being a teenager, being awkward, having urges to be violent and or angry and or just trying to fit in and using things to be cool. And, you know, coming to find out that the strength you had was with the strength you had within was much stronger than being a werewolf. And also it has a werewolf riding on a van to Beach Boys surfing in the USA. It's Teen Wolf. It's great. All of these movies are great. I still am delighted at how good I Was a Teenage Werewolf actually is. And Ginger Snaps is just, I watch that at least once every year. It's just amazing. So where there was nowhere, 3 movies about teenagers turning into werewolves and the pitfalls therein. I Was a Teenage Werewolf, Ginger Snaps, and Teen Wolf. And I'll see you guys next week.